So for so long, we've been looking at how to align ourselves correctly, how to breathe correctly, how to do the poses correctly in the right sequence. And we've been worried about all of these other things. And now we're going to look at the psychology of asana. So what are these asanas actually telling us? So the question that I want to ask all of you is, what if these physical habits, these things that we're constantly, doing on the mat, are more than just biomechanical patterns? And so this is really an invitation to take the practice from just these are a bunch of postures to look beyond it and see it as a living diary or a physical manifestation of our mental and emotional history. And 𝐸𝐬, who is the author of the primary series book, he essentially says our body is a crystallized history of our past thoughts. Meaning, our past thoughts, if you just crystallize that right now, you are the consequence of all of your past thoughts. The way you sit, the way you move, the way you walk is that patterning of the way that you've been thinking. And so asana, doing asana, repatterning, removing our body in different ways is a method that releases us from our past conditioning that's perhaps stored somewhere in the body so that we can arrive into the present moment without all of that past baggage weighing us down. And so every single day on the mat, we have this incredible opportunity to retrain or to repattern our habitual ways of functioning in the world, or holding our asana, holding our position, the place from which we see the world or interact with the world. And so this is why it's so powerful, because if we listen to the story that our body is trying to tell us, it just transforms our practice into this incredible, way in which we can understand ourselves. So, postures and mental states. What is the link between posture and a mental state? And asana means holding still. Asana just means seat. It's an effort to actually go within. Throughout the day, we're so occupied with the external world and all of the stuff that it's giving us. But asana is such an important interruption to that in order to make that effort to go within, to make that effort to pull the bow far, far, far back so that we can actually look inside and say, oh wait, what's happening inside my internal world? And posture, when you do that, you notice your posture reflects your mind. And so the posture a person takes is a reflection of their mental state, and physical tension is the body's way of embodying what the mind is holding. So let's say you're at a dinner table and you've been hunching your shoulders and just listening to everyone else around you kind of belittle you or say things about you. And the next day when you're at work, you notice your shoulders are still hunched. You're still occupying that small position, even though the immediate threat or the trigger or whatever is not even there in your environment. You carry that position that was once made in one of those situations, and you carry that and you embody that because your mind is still holding on to one of those mental emotional states. And so because the posture clearly reflects the way that we're feeling, the body can't, it doesn't lie. It just gives it to us straight. It just tells us how we're feeling. But it's also a two-way street, meaning that even though the posture reflects the feeling, in the sense, if I'm sad, then my body is also showing that I'm sad. It's also true that if we change the posture, we open up our shoulders, we sit up a little bit taller, that can also influence our mental state. And so sometimes over time it can become inseparable because we can't distinguish if the feeling came first or if the posture came first. But it doesn't matter because asana helps us to untangle that and give it to us cleanly so that we have the emotional state that we can release and the posture that just through the way that we move it, we can embody a new shape. And so the feeling shapes the posture, but the posture also shapes the feeling. And because these two reinforce each other, without our awareness, without the interception of our awareness, we'll just walk through the world carrying yesterday's emotions into today's life. So, because the body sustains the story, it's not just of what you're telling yourself silently in your head, you're maybe occupied with something at work, so you're not constantly speaking to yourself. The body is holding that story so that the mind can continue it on a subconscious level. So a rounded spine, born from that shame that I talked about, can actually just keep recreating the feeling. So we have this responsibility to work with the body and to interrupt the pattern. And as we go into harder and harder postures in the primary sequence, they bring chronic tensions, far more like nuanced inside muscle tensions that we can't quite see with our eyes or just feel when we're walking through the world. And through breath, through the tools of Trishtana, we begin to release slowly what the body's been holding for months, maybe years even. And so doing repeated asana is not just a way to get physically fit or to train your mind for concentration or to have a way of, shifting your state. It's also a way in which we can see the asana as a mirror for our mind and try and help ourselves as a way as almost like just doing therapy or self-reflection on ourselves. And so the mat from now on is a mirror. Your posture contains this silent monologue which is playing on repeat wherever you go. It need not be verbal, it can be a tone, it can be a silent feeling, but that collapsed chest speaks of defeat. Maybe you're standing and whenever you stand you just have this rigid samastitihi stance, and that represents a guarded mind. And so this is where the asana practice transforms from a physical workout into a profound laboratory for self-discovery, and it becomes a safe and contained environment where we can notice these chronic patterns, and they get buried in the low-grade hum of life, so they're brought to the surface and you're given an opportunity to see them in the mirror, and then nothing that's not there will be revealed. So it's not like, the posture is bringing up pain in your body or bringing up tension in your body. It's just revealing whatever has been suppressed or whatever hasn't been given attention to. And so the goal is just to observe with compassionate curiosity, and just think next time when you move into a challenging back bend, maybe you're trying to do Urdhva Dhanurasana, are you holding your breath as you lift up, or you're not able to fully breathe 5 full breaths because you're thinking, oh my gosh, can my hands actually hold me up? But can I explore this relationship I have to vulnerability, to opening up my chest? And this can come once you observe it in the asana, you pull it out and then you write about it, you reflect on it, and then outside the mat, you can really deal with it. Sometimes you're in a forward bend and yesterday you could touch your toes, today, you feel a lot stiffer because you went for that run. Does your mind just get frustrated and want to do something faster or just get through the practice? And this is your chance to see ambition playing out in that 60 minutes, and then you can actually course correct during the practice so that the rest of your day isn't tainted with that same sense of ambition. And usually when we wake up in the morning, we have all of this stuff that just comes up. So it's the perfect time to deal with it. And using the tools of the practice, the drishti, the ujjayi breath, we learn how to stay super present with these sensations, and we understand what our emotional undertones are by and large when we walk through life. So when we breathe in through the physical tension, we also create space to release that stored energy. And then when it comes out, it takes time. It's not a one and done thing. It takes a lot of time because these patterns have been really, really deeply buried inside our fascia. So it needs to be released over time and routinely in order for it to stick. And so we have to gently coax the body into a more open, aligned, and stable form. And simultaneously, like I said, the goal is to repattern the mind so it stops holding on to that old story, that old posture, that thing that happened to us, and then it starts to embody or to shift into a new story or a new state that we can then carry into the world. So that becomes the asana, or the posture from which, the stance from which we interact with the world. And this is really truly the transformative power of the practice.